It has been quite a month for theme park enthusiasts all around the world. At the start of the month we have Hyperia, which started testing, which people called slow. Emerald Park dropped their first teaser for their new land, Tir na Nog, which if you haven't gone and seen that teaser, go and watch it because I filmed it. Disney adults have been hating on the new Tiana's Bayou takeover retheme of Splash Mountain at Disney, even though it hasn't even opened yet, and they're just hating on it. I personally think the new one looks way better than old Splash Mountain. Top Thrill 2 open to the public, which I had to be honest, I haven't really heard much about, but the main thing I want to talk about is Voltron at Europa Park, which is my personal new favourite #1 roller coaster. I'm pretty confident in saying that. It's bloody brilliant, but is it perfect? That is the main question. Just because something's my #1 coaster doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect. And there's some things I want to talk about today. Oh, that looks terrible. Why am I using a portrait version of the POV? Good lord. I'm trying to... Whoa! That is the wrong thing. So, I don't know if you already know, I made a video going to the press event of Voltron, which is already on the channel. If you want to see that, you can go and watch it. But like I said in that video, don't watch this video if you don't want spoilers of Voltron. I won't be offended. Stop watching. But yeah, my general thoughts of Voltron is it really honestly feels like Mac are trying their hardest to show off as much as possible. And that's great in every way. I've said this in the past, but Europa Park, if you didn't already know, is owned by the Mac family. The very same Mac family that own Mac Rides. So you've got this perfect crossover where you've got a ride manufacturer who wants to show off the amazing things that they make, and they have a theme park where they can show off doing that. And Voltron is the perfect example of showing that off. I call Europa Park Mac's showroom, if you will, because it's kind of like they're just trying to look at what we can build. Do you want this stuff type scenario? And Voltron being the first Mac Striker coaster is a very good example of that. This is the first Striker coaster from Mac, and it's kind of like, you know, if you bought a car and you tick all the additional extras that cost more, but you know, you just want to get all the features. It's kind of like they've crammed every feature they can into Voltron, even when it's unnecessary. Like this, look, you've got this turntable. Do you need a turntable here? Probably not. You probably could have just done a regular transfer track or something along those lines, but I love it. It's there. It's great. I mean, you can't complain. It's still cool. And right at the start, obviously, you've got this insane vibrating bounce track thing. You can see the pulsing waves of electricity on the sides on all the screens, which is why you're going up and down. It's just insane, but it's like, look at what we can do, guys. We're making the best. Also, I had this thought where back when they built something like Blue Fire, and then they went on to build things like Helix and Icon, a lot of people generally think that Helix and Icon outshine Blue Fire, understandably. I kind of feel like they've learnt from that, and they want Voltron, regardless of when they build more Strikers around the world, they still want Voltron to be way up there. They don't want it to get overshadowed by the ones they build elsewhere. So like I said, it is my #1 coaster. I don't think it's perfection. I feel like there is still things they could have done to Voltron to make it like the perfect coaster. I think a lot of the layout in general isn't surrounded by like lots and lots and lots of theming. I would say it's a really, really well themed coaster, obviously. But as you can see, as you go through this part of the layout, this area isn't themed. It's just there. That kind of doesn't matter because I can't stress enough, every element on this ride just feels like its sole purpose is to eject you out of the seat, and it is just pure craziness. Now, one thing that popped up a lot over the opening period, and I guess before it opened, because Mac released a POV from Voltron, and it looked a little bit wobbly and shaky. People started this whole thing of, is Voltron rattly? And then it started this whole thing where after it opened, people were going on it, and the majority of people were saying it's butter smooth, it's brilliant. There was a select few people that were saying it vibrated you until your head just felt completely rattled. And then there was talks of potentially it's just a couple of the trains or one of the trains. I noticed something when I was there that I found interesting that I don't think anyone's talked about. Voltron has these really cool black coaster wheels, like the actual rim of the wheel. But one train, when we were stood in the queue line, I was counting the trains through, there were 6 trains on the track, and only one train had silver wheels. What does it mean? Could it mean that those silver wheels are the rattly wheels? Who knows? Probably not. I think I'm reaching here. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch, but it's something I noticed and I wanted to say it. I will say that out of the 7.5 rides I had on Voltron, none of them were rattly. So I must have just been really good at avoiding this rattly train. Now there is one more thing that I think could be better on Voltron, and this is a very minor thing, and to be honest all of my points are really minor because there's a gazillion things I could list that I love about this ride, but this video is just sort of giving my in-depth review, so I feel like it's worth addressing my thoughts, and one of those is the soundtrack. The actual Voltron soundtrack, which you can listen to on YouTube, is a fine soundtrack, and it's the one they play in all of the queue lines. It's a bit repetitive, but you know, it's gloomy, it's spooky, and that's fine. Like it sounds okay. But on the launch day, on the press day, the launch day, the fan night, all of that, they had these temporary speakers out front where the entrance sign is, and they were playing this incredible soundtrack. It was a custom soundtrack. It's a Voltron soundtrack that plays nowhere in the actual ride area, and this is why. It's because it's the soundtrack for the Voltron 4D film, which they play in their 4D cinema, and it's the soundtrack they used in all of the Voltron commercials. Amazingly filmed. It was an incredible piece of music. Like, it sounds amazing. They play it nowhere around the actual ride. That this amazing piece of music and soundtrack is only for the 4D. It's the only place you can hear it in the park now, I guess, is the 4D cinema. That's crazy to me. On the press day and the launch day and the fan night and all of that, they were playing this soundtrack at the ride's entrance, and I can't stress enough how much it hyped you up for going on this amazing experience, because it's such a cool soundtrack. You got really hyped for going on the ride. But now what they actually play and the permanent music outside the, let's say, the entrance archway and sign, is the Croatia area music, which sounds very bright, bubbly, happy, but certainly not something that gets you in the mood for going on Voltron. I get it as, like, if it played more over near like the ice cream shop and stuff, that makes sense. But right outside the ride, I can't stress enough, because they actually played this track outside the ride's entrance, and it did make the ride's entrance feel like this really hyped area and you're about to go in. And they don't actually do that. And as much as I love all the soundtracks that they do play around the queue line and the indoor queue line and stuff like that, this soundtrack in particular, the one they used in the TV ad, oh, it's ended. Come back. This soundtrack they used in particular for the TV ad and the launch day and all of that, it's such a great piece of music. It would be so cool to hear it somewhere around the ride, or at the entrance Voltron sign is before you go under the archway. I don't know, it sounded great there, but if I'm completely honest, those things are very minor things when it comes to the grand scale of how amazing this ride is. And it's without a doubt my number one. So yeah, that's probably it for this video of us talking about Voltron. Goodbye, Voltron. Europa Park is honestly like an amazing theme park. If you haven't been there already, you need to go there. It's not even just the theme park. Rulantica is just incredible. We did an evening there and we bought tickets for the following day because we loved it so much. But that's it for me chatting. So I suppose bye.